we're gonna start cranking. I'll do a little intro, so everyone knows a little bit about who Gina and Tim Murray are. So for those of you who don't know who they are, they were former Mastermind members. Mitch, you might remember them because they were in your group. They had built an amazing organization. Where were you guys located again?
Just outside Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Okay, so they were in
Yeah,
Raleigh, North
RTP,
Carolina.
Raleigh period.
And what was amazing about what they did is that they really, a large chunk of their business was focused on community-based care. So I think I heard you say when I was jumping on, wasn't so much assisted living, or maybe it was more independent living facilities.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
I misunderstood. So I thought it was assisted and independent, but it's been independent living facilities. And I've had other clients that have tried to get in and do like they tried a bunch of different things to get into independent living
Yeah.
facilities and look at those opportunities. And you guys kind of mastered it. They really grew a very substantial business and then sold it about a year and a half ago. Right? Is that right? Am I getting my time right? It might have been 2 years
Yeah,
ago.
2 years, man. I can't believe it's been
Wow.
2 years to what's now
That's
called
crazy.
home care assistance. Yeah.
Yeah. So they sold it 2 years ago, and then since then they've been working diligently. Maybe they even started it before they sold, but they've been working diligently on building out a software because one of the I call it the downsides of community-based care and those shorter shifts is like administratively it can be a lot more challenging.
Yeah.
So they looked at that and they said, "Hey, here's an opportunity here. Like we built a really nice sized business doing this in our market. There's going to be lots of other agency owners that can really build a substantial business, and we're going to make it easier for them." So they're going to jump on here and talk a little bit about what they did, so you guys can learn how you can do community-based care. Then they'll share a little bit about the software and kind of how it works, just to make things a lot more efficient. So I'm going to make you guys co-hosts.
Okay.
You don't have to share the PDF that you had, but if you want to, you can.
Yeah, that would be great if we could do that, Greg.
Yeah, so if you have it, great. If not, I will. Oh, you do have it up on the screen.
He's a technology guy.
Yeah. So, yes, this is really, guys, this is really cool and exciting what they did. And when you start to learn a little bit about kind of their approach, yeah, they were just cranking. But I'll let them take the floor, and I will sit here. I'll probably shut up most of the time. I may interject here or there if you guys are okay with that, but I'll try my best not to
Absolutely.
take you off course.
Absolutely. Are you guys seeing the screen? You should see this little
Yep.
iPad. Great. It kind of tells that picture. Well, we're going to tag team, and Greg, thank you. We admire and appreciate what you do for everybody out there. Home care can be very difficult and stressful at times, but so needed. So God bless everybody on this call for what you do, and helping and employ caregivers and help people out there. So Gina and I are going to turn this over to Gina, and I may pipe in, but she's much better. But we just want to give you an idea. So we're talking apples to apples about what community-based home care is, and then and just why you should consider it. And at the end, kind of technology, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then we'd like to have a really good Q&A with you guys.
So I think it's really important to know what community-based care is. So it's home care services basically in an apartment building. In most of them are senior living centers. They're exploding all over the country. So many of them have dining services, they have housekeeping. So what the residents need are really short shifts. They need like half an hour, sometimes only 15 minutes to help them get up and get dressed and take their medications. And it's really, really short shifts. We used to do up to 7 minutes.
Wow.
We would schedule a caregiver in the community. Okay, you're going to work 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then we would give them a list of clients who they had to see, which is great. And when we took over, we just assumed, we would just do it in our software. But that didn't work out so well. So this market is, like I said, is really exploding. And so that's what it is. It's caregivers going to one building, seeing many clients. We have a picture of what that looks like.
Yeah, and I think it needs to be said that when I used to be out there marketing and I would hit up independent living facilities, their big thing, I experience this often, is like there's honestly a fear with the people living in independent living. They don't want to go to assisted living. Like it's like anything I could do to stay here is what I want to do. And when you mention assisted living, that they start to get a little anxious about it because they feel like it's like the next step of me being not being able to take care of myself. So
And
I
you know,
just
what
want
else we found was couples, one would need help. And what do you do, split them up? The husband goes to assisted living and the wife
yeah,
stays.
yeah,
So, sometimes with these really short visits, you avoid the fall. You take your medicines like they're scheduled and you stay independent. So,
yeah,
of course, the communities love it because you're keeping their residents
yeah.
at home. The residents win, the community wins, and if you run this well, your agency wins too. So instead of so traditional home care, one caregiver, you assign it to one client. But in community care, we had 8 caregivers in the morning, 6 in the evening and 2 overnight. So, and they would see, 12 or 15 people during the shift.
Oh.
So there's many caregivers for many clients.
And as Greg mentioned, we developed, I just fortunate my background before I got into home care, because it was Gina's a nurse. We got into home care because of Gina, not me. But I just called my old friends because in 2016, when we got into our first community, seeing how this would work and look at the model, we realized that we used ClearCare. We were a great product, and that was our home care technology, but it did not have the scheduling engine to manage this model that Gina has in the bottom. And she looked at me and said, before I let you drag me in other communities, you need to come up with a solution for me.
Because we were using paper. We were doing spreadsheets and paper task sheets. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just as that's how it got started, and we actually used our product in our final year and a half of our agency, and we designed it specifically for the bigger problem that community Gina talked about, was 140 resident IL, but in Carolina, they call it a MUA, multi-unit housing, and it's more like assisted living. We had 92 clients. So it was a business in itself.
Yeah.
And the scheduling paradigm was really difficult, and that's what led to what we call Cinch today. So let me just move on.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So it's a tremendous recurring revenue stream. That's what we found out. Once we got it running, it's, home care is just so unpredictable. You lose a couple 24/7 clients and everything tanks. So it was a reliable source of income every month. And what we found was we got a tremendous amount of traditional home care hours in that community also. So
Yeah.
they would come back with like a 24/7, and then they would taper them down back to the community care. So
That's what I was going to ask, because I know with independent facilities and even assisted living, you can have both. You can have the shorter shifts and you can have the bigger cases. So you guys were getting both. Will you guys, I got a chance to glance at the presentation, but not the whole thing. Will you have a chance to kind of talk about, like, how do you evaluate, is this a good facility to look to partner with?
yes.
Because what I've seen with
the long-term care insurance stuff,
Yep, Nancy, my mom sent all the paperwork in and got that going, so I think we just need to get the logs in there now.
I'll unmute you guys.
I'll double check with Nancy if she did officially send in all the paperwork, but I think she did.
Okay.
And then I'll unmute you guys. All right, Gina and Tim, look to see if you can unmute yourself again. I
Okay.
had to mute. There we go. Yeah, because I know, at least what's coming up for me is I hadn't gone full force in this because I've heard like mixed bags about some do this, and because of the administration portion,
Yeah.
it could not be profitable, right? Because you just got so much administrative burden.
Yeah.
So will you guys at some point talk a little bit about that? Like, how do you decide what's a good facility to look at? And
Sure.
We do.
Yeah, we'll end up there. And just by the way, for you guys, I sent Greg a PDF, but you see that where it says video on our website, we have a video gallery, and we try to, they're all educational, and it's if someone was calling me about Cinch, what would I want to know, you know? And so we have like here, this talks about, I did a video on what it did for us, kind of what Greg was talking about. It represented 30% of our business. That one community alone annually was 1.2 million, and just that one community. To give you an idea of the impact.
That's awesome.
As goodness, caregivers loved it. So if you hire the right caregivers, ones that like fast moving, if somebody wants to sit for 12 hours with one person, this isn't for them. But you find the right caregivers, and they love moving around. They knew all the residents in the community. So we had high retention. The teams were like locked in there. They loved it. They would swap shifts with each other. So it was great. And we actually found running several was easier. Once we got Cinch up and running, it was much easier to run a couple of communities because you build a whole pool of caregivers who love to do it. So
Yep. No, it's a big one. And recruiting, you know, Greg, I assume a lot of your team out there, Masterminds, recruiting still remains the number one big challenge to everybody. And it really helped us because we can give multiple opportunities to our caregivers and higher pay in some of these communities. So it really helped with our recruiting too.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you that was, you know, are you guys typically you are, especially for like quarter hour and half hour increments, you are billing more than your typical hourly rate?
Absolutely.
So most of our
Yes.
customers bill $15 for 15 minutes.
Okay.
We charge $10 for 7 minutes. So if you just had compression hose or a quick medication reminder, you know, you think about it, you know, $20 a day to keep you in your independent home. It was virtually nothing. So, but yeah, so
I don't want to take you guys off track, but this is kind of funny. I tried to put on compression hose. I got a blood clot because I hurt my knee, wrapped my knee. Long story short, ended up with a blood clot, and I had to wear compression stockings. And I'm like, I have no idea how the elderly can do this. I'm telling you, this thing, I'm trying to put it on my leg, and I was like, this is hard. This
right.
is hard. How do they do it?
Imagine being 80 or
I
90.
know. That's all I kept thinking about. I was like, oh man. Anyway, I just had to share that because yeah, there's definitely a need for that. I think I would have hired a caregiver to help me with that.
Good. That's a good one, Greg.
So skip that's out of order. There you go. So how do you get started? Great question, Greg.
Good.
It's really important to find the right community or an optimal community. It's really enticing. Somebody's opening up a brand new community, it's all shiny. But odds are you're not going to have very many clients. And that's really tough. You're going to be underwater. You're going to put a caregiver in for 4 hours and they have, you know, 2 15-minute visits. It's just not really feasible. So when you went looking, it was an established communities where the home care agency was really struggling. And Tim just went out and you just introduced yourself, and we went to the ones that had high occupancy rates. And quite honestly, we also went after the ones that were more affluent. The people who could say, you know what, I'm not going to rehab. I'll pay for home care in my apartment so I don't have to go to rehab. So it made a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, you can identify all the communities around you. In fact, in our research, we pretty much got a spreadsheet nationwide of who all these communities are. I'm happy to share any information on any of you that would like. But the thing to look at, if it's an established community, if there's an agency on site, that's a qualified community.
Yeah.
And that's something for us. If they're not on site, that means most likely there's not a critical mass for them to justify a caregiver in there. And it's problematic. They say, well, we need you in here, but we can't put a caregiver there for 6 or 8 hours if they're being utilized for 2 hours.
Right.
And so you may do some, you may start and do some interesting pricing to get going in there, but the most qualified is there's an on-site. And then we did our homework and said, how do you feel about the services? How are you doing? And a lot of them struggle.
Yeah.
One community near us, right here in Cary, has gone through 5 home care agencies in 5 years.
Yeah.
And they can't operate profitably. And the issue is the technology and what they've got. They can't get a view of how well they're doing.
Right.
They overstaff, understaff, and so forth. And that's is a weapon for us. So to qualify, if they're on site, and we find if they've got 20 more people on service, that's a
good number.
That's a good number.
Yeah.
a good number. And then from there, it's just, I just listened. How things going? If you had an idea, what would be your ideal? What are your expectations? And just kind of kept track. And since a lot of them failed, eventually we got a phone call. Hey, could you come? What was interesting, it was the day before Thanksgiving, Greg, just a story in this one community, our first community, in fact. We said, well, we're going to evaluate you. The next day said, can you be here at lunch? I'm going to announce you as the
new agency.
because the other agency literally just walked out the door.
Yeah.
They just
Wow.
literally left all their clients in
Yeah.
a lurch.
Yeah.
That was amazing story. But
So
anyway.
that Thanksgiving weekend, we did all the assessments and got them up and running
Yeah.
by Monday, but yeah, it's, yeah. I need to catch up.
Yeah, no, that's basically the qualification really in all the communities. And then, from there, you sit and just listen. And
Sometimes you have to set the expectation. We've had the executive director say, well, I want a caregiver in the building 24/7. That's really nice, but are you gonna help me pay for that caregiver? So you have to bring them back to reality and say, let's take a look at what the needs of your residents are, and we'll staff to that. And
Right.
it's a work in progress, so. We
It's
talked.
got to work for both of you, and it's got to, they have a need, they have a desire, they want to keep people there. One of I call it the WIFMs. The WIFM is maintain occupancy, and if they're losing people, I call it out the back door. If they're losing people out the back door because their needs are too great for what they can provide, because these independent living facilities, they don't have CNAs or aides or caregivers on site to provide this type of service, the hands-on care, or helping them with the compression stockings. So it's got to work. So they have a need, but you're right. You have to kind of lead and say, hey, we want to work with you, and let's talk about expectations on both sides, because
Right.
especially for people that have been through other agencies that's not worked, there's a reason why it's not working.
That's right. So we also were very good keeping in touch with the family if a resident went to the hospital, because the communities always complain, we lose them. Hey, they went to the
Right.
hospital, I don't know where they went. And so we would stay in touch with the family. Hey, we can do 24/7, they have in-house therapy. So we were the liaison for the community between the family if a resident went to the hospital. And that kept a lot of them coming back.
Yeah. And that helps bump some of the revenue too, because I know
Yes.
the software is designed more for the shorter shifts, but we're going to take longer shifts too.
Exactly. So our software is an add-on, so it doesn't replace your
Yeah.
traditional home care. It's an add-on to what you're already using.
Yeah, we used it in conjunction with ClearCare, and we still manage
Yeah.
ClearCare as the big picture.
Yeah.
We can talk a little bit about that later. But don't be afraid to put proposals down. We actually, this one community, Greg, they wanted a caregiver 24/7. And I showed them how much that would cost and why that was problematic. And then ended up, they funded a caregiver for us
Wow.
for a bit.
Yeah,
And we showed them, this had to do something, some of the communities have the pendant,
the
emergency pendant, and they wanted us answering, and I said, we can't do that for free, but we'll staff it for you. And in the end, just like you said, win-win. If you present it in an open fashion and showing, I was happy to show them the numbers and show them when we're under the water and when we got above the water, because it's in their best interest for you to succeed, because if we don't succeed, they don't.
Yep.
So anyhow, hopefully that gives you a picture kind of, I may have this out of sequence.
Oh, this is the one.
Before I get, there's a video I shot of this, so you're welcome to look at it post-meeting. But we wanted to prove to ourselves our investment was worth it. And I'm a numbers guy, benchmark guy, spreadsheet guy, KPI guy like Greg is, right? And we put together a time savings spreadsheet by job description, and we documented every little thing we needed to do to run the community. and how much it was taking us. And we did it before and after. And it justified the cost of
Wow.
adding Cinch because it made everybody's job easier. Even answering the phone, answering questions from families.
Right, so like the office administrator would get bombarded with questions. Nobody showed up for mom, nobody, you know, and there's no way for them to verify that in the moment. Where our software, just like ClearCare, you can pull up the schedule and you can see, was that visit completed? They can pull up the task sheet and they can say, well, mom got a shower, they washed her hair, they washed the dishes, and they, you know, took her down to bingo.
Yeah.
So they can, everything is right at their fingertips, where before they'd be searching for the paper and the task sheets and the different.
Yeah.
And how much of what you guys did you did also do nursing there, like private pay nursing?
Well, we did med boxes, so we would do, fill their med boxes every 4 weeks, and we charge for that.
Okay.
So we also have to have, you know, a nurse do the assessments and then do the update of the care plans. So before Cinch, it was all in paper because we couldn't run it in ClearCare. We
Yeah.
couldn't, so it was all, so if you had to make a change, then the nurse would have to fax it over. I'm like, did you get it? Do you have it? Did you put it in the notebook? Did you? And now they just make the change like you do in any software, and it's updated in real time.
And we did do private duty. It did open the door, Greg.
Yeah.
That wasn't a particular focus, but when they needed or wanted it, we charged a very good rate for private duty nursing. So it became a nice little add-on besides medications. So yeah, I mean, we basically, you can see what we did. We built this and we had all these headaches. So we wanted to solve reporting. We wanted to solve long-term care insurance. We mainly wanted to address scheduling, and that's what we built.
I mean, you have to manage these buildings almost like it's its own business entity,
It is. a
right?
different one.
You've got to maximize profit. I mean, essentially, that's what you're doing. I mean, with the software that you guys created, just because of all the inefficiencies of the other systems and the way that you have to run them, it does make it less profitable. You are essentially fixing that equation. People still have to find the right places to
Yeah.
market to and to present this to, because it is a huge business opportunity. If you get the right facility, I mean, you guys did 1 plus in $1 million in revenue from one facility. You
Yep.
do 2 or 3 of those.
Right.
It's a really nice, business line.
And we had them calling us once they found out, you know, the sister communities were like, hey, we understand you're over at community A, but we need you over here. So we didn't even have to go hunting.
Yeah.
Once we got it rolling, it took off on its own.
Yeah,
I
So,
believe that.
You appreciate sales and marketing, Greg. It's a big expertise area of yours. Once you get into community, it's like a mortgage. You don't want to change it. It literally just runs itself. And there's no cost of sales because they love you.
Yeah.
And you don't have to market. So basically it just kind of, like you said, it became a business that some communities I even forgot, once it started.
yeah.
There's some cost getting it up and running, obviously, but once you get it humming, it just kind of as long as you guys are just doing a great job,
Yeah.
it just keeps rolling. It's a beautiful recurring revenue stream to the ups and downs of 24/7 traditional home care. And the competition is big there, right?
So this is the heart of Cinch. So this schedule, they're read vertically, vertically instead of horizontally. So the big difference is you don't assign a caregiver to a client.
You sign the clients to caregivers.
No, you assign,
No?
you all the client visits on the schedule. So this is the day view. This is if a caregiver comes in. This is all the client visits for this day. So we can see from 7 a.m. to about 9 a.m. and it scrolls down the whole 24 hours. So you put all the visits on and there are tracks. You can see CG1 is the blue track and the orange is a caregiver 2 and caregiver 3. So this community's got 3 caregivers working in the morning. So, okay, I'm caregiver 1. And if you click on the little icon, the caregiver's name will actually come up. So this is my track. I've got the blue track today. And when you're setting up your community, you're looking, where is this apartment? So you don't want them running from the 4th floor to the 3rd floor, all over the place. So we sat down with the caregivers, got all the visits, in there. Then, oh, this was a 45-minute visit, tomorrow it's half an hour. Get all the visits in, they're organized. You give the caregiver, here's your list, your caregiver 1. And you just go right down your list. So you see it's their apartment number and their name. And then their task sheet is embedded. You just tap on it, opens up the task sheet. And you have the specifics for that visit. So now the beauty is, hey, caregiver 2 sends me a message going, I can't leave my client. Can you run over and do the medication reminder for Rosemary at 8 o'clock? Even though I'm assigned to that track, I can do that visit and it documents as me. So that they would work as a team. They'd be like, I've got Mrs. Smith on the floor. Can you pick up my 8:30? There's no trading visits. There's no, yep, I can just tap on it, do the visit, and it's all the documentation's done.
Awesome.
So it's
Like
you
it.
take away that one-to-one assignment.
Yeah.
And
I like it.
you can drag and drop to change them. Hey, somebody's coming in late. Can you, okay, the caregiver's not coming until 10. The office just drags and drops them over to the other tracks.
Yeah, and this, I posted today the patent that we have pending on visual team-based scheduling, but we embrace chaos. I mean, how many times as home care agency owners, you say you can get the perfect schedule, only in the next morning, 2 caregivers don't show up.
Like,
Now what do? There's no scramble here. As Gina said, a schedule is going to go, okay, CG2 is not here. I'll drag and drop those visits over to the CGs that are here, or I will go and do it. And like Gina said, the others, we empower the caregivers. That's a key thing. They can go do it. And the back office doesn't have to do anything.
Right.
There's a lingo here. We talk about shifts and tracks, and we have a training on it. But once you get the lingo and you understand the dialect that we have here, people just embrace it. And the caregivers love it because they can see each other's schedule. In real time, they can see what's being done.
Yeah.
And they can, like, we had messaging. So like Gina said, it's common to caregivers. I can't get to Mrs. Smith. Can you pop in for me? They go, got it. They go and do it. It's documented, and the care coordinator can watch all this happening in real time in their upstairs office. It's like command and control. It's a really cool thing.
Because the visits go green, they go dark green when they're complete. So you can look in the office and see what's happening in your community. So they would do things like, okay, if you got Mrs. Davis, I'll take your next one, and they just balanced it out. So they loved it because they had the control. They're like, yeah, this schedule looks great, but this is what actually happened today. We're making sure all the visits are done. I'm responsible for the visits on my track. But when you work as a team.
I could go into another track
and
the system automatically documents it with e-signature and everything. So you know exactly what's happening. And the point of all this is to get it done. It's not necessarily to give credit to, say, a certain caregiver. And this embraces the chaos.
Yeah.
That's our lives. I mean, so that's it may be a little bit foreign, but once you understand the concept of tracks, shifts, and you understand the paradigm, our users, they're like, and the caregivers, they just all sync up. And it's all visual. They always can see the big picture.
Yeah, it's and what's beauty, the actual start time of the visit is recorded. So it's scheduled at 9 o'clock. If they get there at 8:45, it's going to say, hey, Gina showed up at 8:46 and she stayed until 9:04. So we record the actual time the caregiver's in the apartment.
And it helps with discussions with families that the son, and I'm one of those classics with my mother, and I say, my mother must take a half an hour shower. And then you try to explain to them that's going to take 45 minutes. So what we did is, okay, we'll accept half an hour, and then we track it. And then we talk to the families to look on average, it's actually almost an hour. So it gives you that data to have good conversations with the family. So this is what Gina was saying, that when they get done, they turn green, and the orange one, I guess, is one that is still missing.
So if you're in the office, you're like, it's way past 8 o'clock. Why isn't that visit done? So you'll know.
Cool.
It's light green when they start it, and it's dark green when it's complete. So
Okay, cool.
And those are customizable, the colors we let you.
well, not the greens.
Okay, I misspoke. And just to emphasize, the point is we have a pending application about how we did visual team-based scheduling. And it is unique because we embrace the chaos, like I said, is we developed this methodology that the differentiator where the other technology we looked at really don't embrace this, is you don't assign a client to a caregiver.
That's the
The
big.
clients are actually fall on a track where a caregiver is then assigned to that track, but there's flexibility in the system, but it's all tracked.
And that way, if a caregiver calls out, all you're doing is assigning the care, taking one name off and putting one name in. As opposed to all those tiny visits, yeah.
So the administration time went from a clear care, you got to do every single assignment to, I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And so you can imagine the
So they
time savings.
they clock in to your current system, so payroll's done out of your current system. And then the completed visits create the invoice for that client. So if you don't do the visit, you don't get paid for it. So that's how we.
Awesome. Yeah, it's really cool stuff, guys. I like it.
It's fun. It's our customers like it. It's
It's cool. I like it because I see it as a huge. I mean, this is not going to be. I know like a lot of different people here in different stages of business on here, so it's not going to be for everyone. But there's some of you that are on here where like this is a nice business line and can help you truly add a value add to these assisted or independent living facilities. In my brain, I keep wanting, and I'm sure there's a reason for it, but when I brought up assisted living, you're like, no, this is definitely more for independent. But it sounds like one of the communities you were in had independent and some assisted. Did I hear that?
It was an independent community that got a license. Now they did all the housekeeping, dining, the apartments, but they got a license for assisted level of service. So they had to have a home care agency in the building 24/7. So,
Okay.
and we were, that was the one I was like, we have to have technology before we take this on, so.
So assisted living really isn't the ideal for this because they do have a caregiver on site.
That's
Now,
Yeah, because not every resident in the building is gonna have service. So typically 140, 150 residents, you may have 30 to 45 clients, they kind of go up and down. So,
okay.
and they wear polo shirts, they look really nice, they run around, you can either use a tablet, or we have a caregiver app where if you didn't want to give the tablets, they can use their phone.
Well, there's some questions in
Yeah,
chat.
I was going to run through some of the questions if this
Yeah.
is the time for you guys. So
Yeah.
one was from Steve. What do you guys charge for med management of the med boxes? I know it can vary market to market, but do you remember what you guys charge for that?
Here,
I'm trying to remember.
yeah, well,
I think we sent it to you.
well, here's the case. I'm happy to share our pricing of 2 years ago because
Yeah,
it's
it's
probably
been
way
2 years,
more.
but
But I created this what I call cinch bill brochure, and it has it in there.
yeah,
And it may be 25. I'm trying to remember, but honestly, we didn't really want to do it. It was a very tedious job for our nurses. And now pharmacies will come in and basically do that med management part.
the pack.
So we charged a premium, but guess what? The family still wanted us to do. We actually charged them a really high premium, and they were good with it.
Yeah, I think we
it may have
charged
been
like-
75 or something.
it was like 75 every 2 weeks. And I'm
It was-
thinking,
Yeah, 150 a month. Anyway, if you email Gene and I, Team Murray at cinchccm.com, I'd be happy to,
we'll send you.
or I'll send it to Greg,
Or
whatever.
you said Team Murray at cinchccm.com. Did I get that right?
Team Murray at cinchccm.com. Yep. And I'll send you the whole price so you can see how it doesn't. And hi, Dina, good to see you again. Yes, we used iPads, but with our version 3 now, we developed a mobile version that's much more user friendly. So if you want to cut costs and allow your caregivers to use their mobile phones, whether Android or Apple, you can. We'd recommend, we use the cheapo iPad,
Yeah.
like your basic iPad. And the caregivers put the little handle on the back and they loved it because it was bigger.
Easy, yeah.
But mobile phone works just fine.
Awesome. And then another from Dina, do you make a commitment to the clients about the time that oh, I see what you're saying, Dina. So if the family's expecting someone to come put my compression stockings on at 9 a.m., how close do we get to being at that time, or do you build in flexibility, because things can go sideways?
So we asked them for a plus minus of, 10 to 15 minutes. So if it's a 9
Okay.
o'clock visit, they shouldn't be there at 8:30. So
Okay.
somewhere between 8:45 and 9:15.
Okay. All right.
And how do you charge for Cinch? Well, we did it in time. This is the other beautiful thing. A lot of agencies fail. I highly recommend you get away from
I
packages.
think you have a charge for our software.
No,
or
well,
charge-
let me just answer the question. There's two things. There's charging the clients, and then how do we charge for Cinch? All good news. The clients were charged based on time, and they all loved it because basically you're paying for what you get, and you can have tasks. Basically, we look at tasks, and we understood how much time they would take. So the nurse would go, "Well, if you want to shower and this and that, that's probably 45 minutes." And then we can put it in a schedule, see how it goes, and if we get it done quicker, we'll reduce that time. Instead of like we have the Sunsigns package, which includes getting up in the morning, bed reminders, stuff like that. That can be problematic, and frequently you couldn't operate properly. So
we had 7, 15, 30, 45 minutes. We tried to stay away from the longer visits, like an hour, because then that really, you're much more profitable the more shorter visits that you have. So we charge.
And that's assuming the volume's there though, right?
Right.
So the volume's got to be there for that to be good. But in the early phases, they might take on that hour client as we're starting to build it, because that it kind of segues into the next question, which is like when you're ramping this thing up, do you pay the caregivers per hour or a different way? Do you say, hey, my caregiver's going to be on site 7 to 3? You might have 2 clients, you might have 8 clients. How do you guys handle that part?
They got paid
no matter what,
at the time they were in the
Yeah.
community. So
Okay.
if we only had 2 visits for them, that wasn't.
That's it.
So I mean, there were.
And you did pay them hourly though, right? So
Yes.
you paid them so per hour, and it was, you had set shifts, whether so it was like I need you there. What's the shortest time period you had someone there? Was it like 4 hours, or how did you do?
We did 4 hours. So
Yeah.
Okay.
when we were starting off with the smaller community, we had a caregiver like 6 a.m. to 2. And then the second caregiver came in at 7 and did like a 7 to 12. Because really, once lunch, there wasn't a lot to do.
but then it started to grow, and they wanted
Yeah.
assistance before dinner, so we did a 4 to 10 shift.
Yeah.
So again, Greg, the way it works is you kind of gauge the level of services, and then you walk before you run. So if you don't have that critical mass, you may say, look, the minimum time we can do is 2 hours, and we're going to charge you a high premium. And then you can probably find a caregiver that would go for those 2 hours. So it's kind of like you'll kind of manage it as traditional initially. And then once you get critical mass, you'll roll into community-based model of a shift and having a caregiver there for a certain time period and managing it the way we do it.
And then we found everybody wants those really early morning shifts before breakfast. So once we had
Yeah.
enough, we said, okay, you can only have a 30 minutes was the longest visit before 8 a.m. So you can only
Okay.
have 15 or 30 minutes before breakfast, because somebody wanted a 2-hour like 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. I'm like, there's too many
Yeah.
people. So,
Yeah, those are the hot hours everyone wants. Even when I was doing in the home care, that
Yeah.
most people want to start 7, 8 a.m.
Yep.
That's when they want to do their bath and stuff.
Yep. The answer to the other questions, how do we charge for Cinch? We charge per visit. And this year's introductory pricing right now is 10 cents a visit.
Oh, wow.
And we as agency owners understand adding costs for technology, right? So you're already paying for ClearCare, Care Smarts, Allow Care, whatever you're using. This is 10, and to give you an idea, for a 140 resident, 25, 30 residents on service, you're going to average, we did statistics, about 1,000 to 1,200 visits a month. So Cinch would cost $120 a month, which Compared to AlayaCare, ClearCare, they charge per client
Yeah,
at 15.
Yeah.
And that's, you can see the cost savings right there, but honestly, the real time savings is in the efficiency
right.
of managing the community, where besides potential savings on,
Right.
so.
So we would have them listed in ClearCare, but with no visits in ClearCare. So we
So,
would,
oh, I got you. Just so you're not double paying, is
Right.
that, so,
Right.
Correct,
so
yes.
the other question is, like, do you guys have an API that set up, like, so you can integrate with like ClearCare or some of the other software providers? How does that work on?
We do, and we're early stage, right? So we have to prove our mettle. You know, we're building up clients, but we have clients now using ERSP. We have
Okay.
client Access Care, and then ClearCare. We're having discussions.
Okay.
The community care module, they'll acknowledge was a failure, and we could be very helpful to them. So we're going to discuss a more seamless integration. But even today, it works. I did a video on the whole methodology we did to show you how we did it. And it's relatively easy, but great, to answer your question, we do have open API, and where we can, and we'd love to be able to have an integration with whomever the technology platform is.
Awesome. Randy asked, how do you compete with, because a lot of these facilities will often have the private caregivers coming in there and trying to get the business.
Yeah.
Has that come up with you guys? Does the facility protect you, or they just say, hey, whoever, however it works? Because meaning private caregivers are going to welcome no matter what. Has that come up for you guys at all with competing with that?
most of the private caregivers won't come for 15 or 30 minutes.
Yeah, good point.
If the
Yeah.
client wants 2 hours, that might be better served for the private caregiver to do that. So these clients only want, they're like, I don't really want her in my apartment for a whole hour. So we would work with the community staff, and they would push it and go, look, you want to hire somebody privately, okay, when it snows and they don't show up, what are you gonna do? Where
Right.
if it's a home care agency, we're gonna be there, we're gonna be sleeping on the floor.
Yeah,
The only
just
time-
like, yeah.
Just like.
No, it's smart. It's smart. And when you get the volume and then you guys have 2 or 3 caregivers in there, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
Even with your own agency, because
Yeah.
you can, someone else can tag team on the team and pick up some of the other caregivers clients in the short term.
Well, what you'll find is this happens. They're private or another agency in there. So the ED knows it's in his best interest of the community for you to be the show. But again, the client makes the choice. And what you'll find is we got clients, we would do monthly socials, wine and cheese. They're happy. We talk, and they started selling us to the other. Hey, get rid of that private caregiver. These guys are great. And
They're selling you. I believe it.
Yeah.
that
believe
becomes that. It tells all the residents they need to use you. But great question. You will find that, but you'll find you're cost competitive because, like Gina said, the caregiver can't come for 15 minutes private.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So is your service agreement, is it different than what it would have been taking care of someone in the home? Did you guys alter it at all?
We tweaked it a little bit, so we wanted to include the ability to be able to talk to the community staff. Because they're not technically part of your care team, they're independent, so there's no medical anything. There was a home health also embedded, so there's therapists. So our service agreement, the clients agreed that we could talk to the community staff, including dining services and housekeeping, because they're the ones coming going, have you seen Mrs. Smith's apartment?
Yes.
So we would have weekly meetings with
Good.
health and the community staff
Yeah.
going
We
over.
call it the circle of support. We all teamed up together. But to answer the question, I think Tim, Dina, there's others. We're not in home care agency business anymore. And I'll dummy out names and stuff, but be happy to share what our agreement template looked like.
Yeah.
And then that references the pricing. And I'm happy to share that because basically they're agreeing to the service. It's somewhat the same as regular, but then of course your pricing is different because you're not charging you're charging a different pricing because based on the per visit model.
We also made them, they had to do ACH because some of them would have 2 visits a week.
Yeah,
And it was just like, to get a check for, $30 was like, okay.
yeah. No, I know. Yeah,
We did all ICH,
Yeah.
but we had the
Yeah.
advantage of COVID time as we were exiting, Greg, and everybody bought into that because, their banks were, well, not, but everybody bought into the ACH. It was a
Yeah.
wonderful thing. And then the other question, yes, we were in the 2014,
Yeah,
Tim, I remember you.
Like, we sat next to you, Tim.
Yeah. Tim,
that's awesome.
uh, the,
Dana was in there too. I don't know if she was in the same training, but I know you
oh,
guys
yeah,
were.
we know Dina very well.
Yeah.
The startup implementation cost, you know what it is time. Right now, we're kind of a proof of concept. We know this works. I mean, we did it, but now we want to make customer success stories. So we have a 60-day free trial.
Sweet.
And the pricing doesn't, so you get 60 days to kick the tires. It's an investment of time. The other thing is we have videos that take you through what we call the A to Z process and allows you to stop because we want you to drive it. We're here to help, but we have concepts to A to Z, step 1, step 2. It's all videoed and you can drive it yourself. And so it's your time investment, right?
Once
Yeah.
you get
That's
it,
really awesome, guys. Thank you for doing that. I mean, I know it's a win for you too by getting some more, client case studies and testimonials. But
Yeah.
honestly, for someone really interested in that type of a business line, and you guys have proven the model can work, and now have got the software to create the efficiency. It really is a competitive advantage, right? So someone who has the software, it's a competitive advantage. Can you do it without software? Yes, but I know from experience it's
That's right.
harder.
No, you can't scale it, right? So
You can't
your
scale.
whole point is we know people that have one community and won't do anything else because it's too hard. They don't want to think about going there because it's just too hard. Once you master this,
Yeah.
then you replicate it. And now you have a weapon to go into these communities going, we know how to do this. We have a technology that's proven from,
Yeah.
you can leverage us to the nth degree. It becomes a weapon for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not selling against them. I'm being open and honest here. Those of you that are not in a place to really take this and do it well, and the timing's not right, don't just do it because it's shiny object syndrome. This is it's a brilliant niche and can be lucrative. Because you do price and bill higher, and yes, you might pay higher, but if you have a caregiver, let's say your normal pay rate's 15 an hour. I don't know how much of a premium you pay, but probably closer to what someone might get in a facility environment. So maybe
Yeah.
17. I'm making up numbers, but maybe.
No, we did, Greg. We
That's-
hit the number. And this is 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We were at that level, so we were offering amongst our competitors higher pay to our caregivers because we had this flexibility. I think I'll just mention this as a side business benefit. We did so well in one community, they were having trouble staffing CNAs in their assisted living, and we became a staffing company, which became 20% of our revenue. It's really crazy, but and you charge more for your caregivers or pay them more.
Yep.
So it opens all kinds of doors and possibilities by getting into this niche market, like you said, Greg.
No, it's smart. I just don't want the people who are struggling operationally that they're now going to take this on because it's a project, but it can be an awesome project as long as you've got the operational support to be able to do it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. So I'm cautioning anyone who's not there yet. Don't just leap because I guess I'm speaking for myself. I've got the shiny object syndrome. A lot of entrepreneurs do. It's like, oh, this is cool. But it's really freaking cool. And it's brilliant what you guys have done.
Yeah.
And it's a great business opportunity. So it's really for someone who they've got things stable in their company, they've got systems in place, and now hey, I want to add another business line. This is a brilliant, business line and can really help tremendously.
He
Love
was
it.
the one after the shiny, and I was like, stop, wait.
Greg, I really, you really hit the nail on the head. She held me back. I'm like, I'm a business development guy. We're going to go after this mountain. She goes, until we get everything else kind of right,
Yeah.
I want you to hold off on that.
Yeah.
It was hard for me, but
Yeah.
smart. Once we got that kind of things, we felt our mainstream business was running well. And then we thought about the people we need to recruit. And then the other part was technology. Then we went for it. So heed the words from Greg, guys. You need to put some mind and focus if you're gonna do this. You can't, it's
Yeah.
just not an ad hoc project.
Exactly. So Rose, this is yeah, it's a separate from a typical scheduling software. I think he said before they're charging, they're doing an introductory, I don't think you said any implementation cost, free trial, 10 cents a visit, or was that, I forget if
10
I'm
cents,
saying it.
that's what we would charge monthly. It's very simple.
Yeah,
If you do 10 cents, that's your bill.
yeah. So yeah, and he even gave an estimate of like, all right, let's say you do 1,200 visits, what the cost would be, but keep in mind, um, you're billing more for these shorter visits. So 10 cents a visit it's built into the margin or should be. And it's like I don't want to say it's a non-thing, it's a non-cost, but like it's just like any other business, the beginning phases of this. So for those of you that move forward with setting up into an independent living facility, at the beginning phase of it, you're probably going to lose a little bit of money. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but until you get the volume and the scale, you're going to lose a little bit of money. But then as you continue to grow and expand this, you're going to be making money on this. And this software just creates efficiency all along the way. It makes life so much easier because that's always been my biggest pain point with this model. I called it the concierge model.
Yeah, that's
Right,
good.
yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so it's brilliant. And those of you that are ready to add that secondary, additional business line and trying to target independent living facilities, it's a great business model. They proved it in their own, in their own market. And it's smart. It's really smart. Thank you guys for
The
sharing.
question about the COVID, we were considered essential, so our whole team was allowed into the building. Now, none of the families could come in, but, so when COVID hit, we actually took on the big community the day after they got their very first positive COVID resident. And we went in all decked out, but yeah, so they let us in.
Yeah. And just that last one, you'll find in referrals that the staff there just so much appreciate you. You're the show. So the staff just naturally wants to point, even the sales staff starts to use you as a weapon in recruiting.
What's
They're talking about,
incentive?
I guess they're saying about,
What, can you clarify the question?
did I answer that question on referrals incentives? Yeah, okay,
Yes.
thank you. Yeah, they just want everything to come to you because you start to become part of the family
Right.
and part of their
They
success.
trust you.
They trust you. You're
Yeah.
making the place a better place for mom and dad to come to. You'll find it's a really beautiful thing. It's a really tight, if you do it right. And then these EDs, they all talk to each other in the area. And so we have one ED, the next thing you know, we got a community call and said, David said, you guys are great. Could you come to my community?
Yeah.
Even though they're different, there's 160 different properties out there, Kisco and Brookdale, but they all talk to each other,
Yeah.
So anyway, we'd love to help you out. I mean, that's a call in for us. We're agency owners. We know what you go through, and that's the beauty of our software is we know it
Yeah.
inside and out, and we will help you be successful.
Oh yeah, Rose, that's smart too. You're right, they do. These facilities will use, if you guys are in their building, they use that as their part of their own marketing to attract new residents. Like, hey, if you need extra support, and you want to stay here, we've got someone on site. So it does help the facility as well. It's a great selling point. And then for you guys, when you use this software, like it's a competitive advantage. Like it just is because of the efficiency and your ability to actually serve the clients more and better instead of the administrative chaos of having to deal with all that goes into it. That, like I said, that used to be my biggest pain point with this model, but you guys, you fixed it. So that's awesome.
Well, thanks.
All right, we got time for any final last questions. I've got to jump off right at the top of the hour, so we got a couple more. If they aren't any or only two independent living in your state, we're only 55 plus apartments or condos. Okay.
Yes, that would be me. I unmuted myself.
Yeah,
Hi,
sure.
I'm
Go ahead,
Rita.
Rita.
Hi, Rita.
And hi, I guess Lynn, the director of marketing, she had to get off, but I have a huge question. My background, I used to be all over the country and living in communities and IL communities, independent living communities, where we'd have vendors that the management team can bring into the community. That's not the case here in Connecticut. So I did live in North Carolina, in the Raleigh area, South Carolina, Texas, Tennessee, and you do have all those independent living communities. Here in Connecticut, we only have 55 plus condos or apartment communities, where there is only a building manager who doesn't normally get involved in the residents' care.
Right.
What would you say, what would your advice be for that, for us?
There are other opportunities here, and over 55 communities are one of them. Like in Raleigh, there's a property called Overture, and
Yes,
it's not an
very
IL.
familiar.
Okay,
Yeah,
and so we went in and talked with, they'll have a marketing or business development, and we befriended them and talked about what we do, and they'll go, yeah, we want people to stay in these apartments. I'll tell you what, we'll do a luncheon and a wine and cheese, and you can come in and talk about your services and how we can help.
Yes.
And that worked really, and we even stayed there at Over. She put us up overnight so we can experience, and we met some of the residents and talked with them, and you know, so yeah, that is an opportunity. That's not IL, right? That's just,
it is an IL.
it's a 55 over.
I'm very familiar with Overture.
Yeah.
And no, I'm saying that here in Connecticut, it has been a challenge because all that we have is assistant living in CCRCs.
Wow.
So it's hard to get home care. I work for assisted living services, which is non-medical home care. There is only 2 that I know of IL communities from a certain company, RLC. You mentioned Overture, I could mention RLC in Connecticut. So how do we build on our relationships and our business in AL communities or CCRCs? Have you gone into those?
Well, in the CCRC, they must have an independent part. Do they have anybody helping out the residents in their independent section?
They do, but it's hard to become a preferred provider, being that they have those levels of care.
Yeah.
So,
They want to move you along.
Well,
right. So I do agree that the independent living communities is where you go to. But if we only have condo developments or 55 plus apartments, it's different from Overture. It's not, all you have is a built-in manager.
Well, if you want to set up some time, we'd be happy to talk. We were successful in the CCRC, and I can tell you exactly how we did it. But long story short, in there, we benefited because they have skilled nursing, right? They guarantee your progression, but they maxed out, and then
Right.
they needed us to help them in that. So you have to qualify them. Look at where they are, and you might find they need your help.
And we kept couples. That was the big one. If you had a couple, they're like, well, they didn't want to split up because they're paying double.
Exactly.
And for the assisted, so can't we help, those?
They even paid us directly. It was beautiful.
So exactly. Okay. So we could possibly sponsor a wine and dine or a lunch and learn for those couples. I gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we got to close out, but to get a hold of Tim and Gina, one, you can go to their website. It's Cinch, www.cinchccm.com, right? And then, or you can email Tim T. Murray, MURRAY at cinchccm.com. And yeah, I'm sure if you guys, they already said it, if you have additional questions about this, just shoot them a message. They're amazing people, amazing human beings. And yeah, this is really cool what you guys have done. So I'm super excited.
Appreciate.
We love talking. We love talking to you, Greg, and agency owners. But a whole bunch. There's like 7 different videos up there, guys. If you want to check it out from what is community care and all that. But reach out to us. We're happy to help. I will share with Greg or share with anybody who reaches out. Give me a day or so. I'll have the agreement and the pricing, because that puts the whole thing together for you.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's
But Greg's words were very good. Be ready.
awesome.
Be prepared.
You're ready. All right,
Thank you.
guys. Thank you so much for your time. This was really helpful. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.